All right, I want to throw another piece in there as we talk about the big man, the center position in general. There was a report yesterday that dropped about a longtime Golden State Warrior big man, Kevon Looney, potentially being a guy that's bought out at the end of the year because of, not bought out, pardon me. He might be released at the end of the year based on contractual stuff and the fact what they want to do and moving on with that position. And we've talked a lot about the backup big man position behind Joel Embiid and seeing if you can find some minutes elsewhere. Andre Drummond, we've talked about. Jonas Valanciunas, we dedicated some time on him as well, and a few others. And right now, Kevon Looney is a name, of course, that everybody will start talking about because there's not a lot of news outside of the NBA Finals going on at the moment. But looking at that name, Derek, when you look at the type of center that Kevon Looney is, would you be interested at all if Kevon Looney were acquired by the 76ers somehow, some way, if he's waived and they gave him a contract? And what kind of money would that look like as far as we go with the salary cap?
Well, I'd have to double check his contract. I think he's got guaranteed money for this year, doesn't he?
So he was at about $8 million, yeah. But only $3, I think,
only
$3
was guaranteed? Okay. That might... Yeah, I'd have to... I don't remember that, but I'm certainly not saying you're wrong.
Sure. And, of course, there could be other opportunities where he might have a starting out.
Well, and that's why when you brought it up, I'm thinking like for a trade candidate, and $8 million to me is still just a little bit too much to commit to a backup center. Otherwise, I mean, I like Looney better than I like Paul Reed, but even so, the principle is the same. Where I just don't want to, when you have limited salary slots, I don't want to waste that on a backup center. But yeah, if he's gets bought out or waived, he's an option. I just have a feeling he's going to cost too much.
I think he's fucking cooked. I think Looney. Even
on like a minimum contract,
I'm not even sure I would touch him with a minimum. I think he is so limited mobility wise at this point that you're just asking teams to bring him out in space and say, try to defend us.
His knees have been done for years. He's just been able to fight through it and play through it.
He is a competitor.
Yes.
He is a guy that, has been through a ton of long, deep playoff runs.
He got to the league,
a lot of experience,
with bad knees.
And all credit to him for somehow, in spite of those health issues, carving out this lane for himself. I just think he is like stuck in cement at this point, and so I would. That's one where I take a flyer on a young guy who probably has a much lower floor if it doesn't work out than hope for like the rejuvenation season for Looney. And I feel like, again, I'm not trying to throw dirt on him or anything. I hope that he's able to bounce
good
back.
Career.
And he seems like if you were talking about like the locker room component as well, the crazy thing is, do you know how old he is?
He left UCLA as a sophomore or freshman?
He feels like he's like 1,000 years old
he's
to me.
28, 29?
He's like 27.
Yeah.
Bless you. He turned 28 in February.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because in my head, I think he left as
in
a
my
freshman.
head, he feels like he's like 45 years old.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just because
we saw Golden State every
season.
night. We saw Golden State every night during their championship years, and he was there.
I guess he like looking at that and saying, he's 28. Maybe it's. I might take the flyer on him. I'm not paying more than the minimum though. If any team bids more than that, I say thank you very much and say good luck, best of luck in your career and your future travels.
Look, he did okay when they put him on the bench. He did okay in that reserve role. Less minutes. To your point, he's not playing 30 or 25, 30 minutes anymore. He's playing less minutes. And for that, he's a smart guy. He can rebound. When we've seen all these rebounding issues with this basketball team, especially with that second unit, he knows how to rebound. He knows that positioning. And, of course, if he does the intangibles and the boxing out that you can get in there and scoop up those rebounds, he's not a bad guy to look at if it is that minimum and not anything significant when it comes to that money.
Yeah, you certainly like significant contracts, no. And that's just as a matter of principle on backup, certainly one with question marks. But, look, I think my bar for a minimum contract is probably lower than some. Sixers are going to have probably 5 or 6 or 7 minimum contracts on there if he's one of them.
Right.
Just to try him out. Not completely against it. But they do have to, not getting too nerdy on it. But, if they go out there and max Paul George, they use their $15 or so million in cap space, they use their room mid-level, and then they fill out the rest of the roster with minimum salaries, they will be approaching the first apron threshold. And again, I'm going to try not to get too nerdy on this, but once you pass that, you get certain restrictions. And if you cycle through too many minimum salaries, you can exceed the first apron threshold. So you do have to be a little bit targeted and strategic on the minimum contracts you do give out. So you'd have to have at least some level of confidence that his knees have something left. But when you start talking about minimum salary big men, you're probably going to be talking about either old or flawed or injured or all three of the above.
And to be fair to Looney as well, some of what has shown up as his limitations in the last year or two could very well be a product of, Clay has taken the step back that we've acknowledged on this show, that he can't keep guys in front of him. So there's more stuff getting to Looney. Draymond being in and out of the lineup and throwing things into chaos, introducing more young guys. They never really found a consistent rotation that worked this year. And so we always say it with backup center here, like that a lot of the problems that get put on, this is Greg Monroe's fault or Boban's fault or Dwight Howard's fault or whoever, is more a reflection of the stars and the things that are going on around them. So you could certainly sell me on the idea of like, he's still good enough, certainly has the intangibles, has had the skills you would want in a backup center in the past, just hasn't shown them as much recently. So I'm not, maybe I was a little harsh, but I do think that
you
that
messed
last
up my
season,
next question,
watching them a lot was...
You messed up my next question specifically to you. Kevon Looney or Mo Bamba on the minimum?
Oh, I would still take Kevon Looney, even with no knees. Just because I would take a guy who at least seems like he wants to play most of the time, which is Kevon Looney and not Bamba.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's why when we start talking about the recent history of Sixers big men, like Trez didn't have a whole lot left physically, but he also was a terrible defender even when he was healthy. So at least Kevon has the mindset and the
want to is
We all silly like the mayor.